Seconds before you step out from behind the curtain, a severe physiological reaction hits your bloodstream. Your palms sweat, your heart rate spikes, and your muscles physically brace for an impact. This is not a glitch in your nervous system. Researcher Brené Brown identifies this specific feeling as emotional exposure, the intense, inherent risk of standing completely exposed in front of a crowd, totally uncertain of how your truth will be received. Chess players have a term for this paralyzing state, zugzwang. It describes a board where every possible move leads to a disadvantage. On stage, you experience cognitive freeze. Speak quickly and you might stumble. Pause and the silence feels catastrophic. The dread pooling in your stomach has very little to do with the actual mechanics of public speaking. You are experiencing a deeply ingrained primal fear of failing in front of the pack. When faced with that level of vulnerability, our biology executes a defensive maneuver. To protect the ego from potential rejection, your brain forces all of your attention inward. This creates a closed circuit. You start obsessing over your own performance. Will I mess up? Are they judging me? Those thoughts trigger an immediate spike in anxiety, and that anxiety commands even more inward focus. Trapped in this cycle, the stakes inflate wildly. Delivering a quarterly update or a wedding toast begins to register to your nervous system as a literal survival scenario. As long as you viewed a podium as a test of your personal worth, you will remain locked in that paralyzing cycle of self-centered fear. To break the loop, you have to execute a hard psychological reversal. You must forcefully shift your objective away from performing well and towards serving the audience. Anxiety requires self-focus to survive. When you redirect every ounce of your attention onto what the people in the seats need to hear, you actively starve your ego of the fuel it uses to generate panic. Serving the audience starts by making their job easy. You isolate one singular central theme. If you can distill your entire talk into a single sentence, the crowd never has to work hard to understand your message. The most highly compensated communicators operate exactly this way. A speaker like Tony Robbins doesn't scatter his message across a dozen different topics in a single speech. He relies on one powerfully potent thought per session to drive transformation. By reframing public speaking as an act of empathetic service rather than a personal evaluation, you dismantle your own fear from the inside out. With your focus shifted outward, you need tools to build a connection. The opening seconds require a sharp hook, a targeted question, a physical activity, or a bold fact that instantly converts a room of passive listeners into active participants. Once you have their attention, you deploy personal narrative. A well-told story bypasses a crowd's logical defenses, forging genuine interrelational bonds that raw statistics and charts simply cannot achieve. During his iconic Stanford commencement address, Steve Jobs didn't rely on business metrics. He used 3 highly personal stories about life and death to effortlessly command the audience's attention and drive his final call to action. To share a narrative like that, you have to drop the corporate armor. You must abandon the exhausting pursuit of a flawless delivery in favor of raw, unpolished authenticity. A well-placed hook or a personal narrative builds a bridge of empathy between you and the crowd, turning an abstract lecture into a shared experience. Even with that bridge built, the ultimate fear still lurks in the back of your mind. What if you stutter? What if your mind goes blank? What happens when you visibly fail in real time? Meaningful growth requires a steady diet of failure. Without the friction of mistakes, there is no mechanism to build real-world resilience or refine a message until it actually resonates. The most culturally dominant figures in history reach their status specifically by enduring a staggering volume of mistakes. Michael Jordan missed over 9,000 shots in his career and used every single miss to forge his greatness. There is an old fable about a donkey that falls into a dry well. As the farmer shovels dirt in to bury it, the donkey simply shakes the dirt off its back and steps up, eventually rising high enough to trot out. When you stumble on stage, you apply that exact real-time resilience. You shake off the mistake and use it as a stepping stone. Accepting that mistakes are useful tools changes the chemistry of the moment. The dread evaporates, replaced by a readiness to adapt and stay present as the situation evolves. As your speech ends, you solidify that connection with a compelling conclusion. You leave the audience with a specific, lingering call to action that extends far beyond the four walls of the room. When you stop performing and start serving, the isolation of the spotlight vanishes. You stop feeling like an outsider under scrutiny and start feeling the shared momentum of a room moving toward the same truth. You never have to become completely fearless to be a great speaker. You only need the courage to be vulnerable and the resilience to get back up and begin again if you trip over your words. You don't need to be fearless to change a room. You just need to decide that your message matters more than your pulse rate.